Hey, how's everybody doing? I know I'm making this horrible face. Sorry about that. I have a really bad headache. It has not gone away. Um, and it's light sensitive, so it tells me because of the sharp change in weather here that I have a sinus headache. And so, because I'm light sensitive, I'm going to be using these nifty little blue blocker glasses at least. See if I can filter out some of the harshness of blue light because I do have a lot of screens I'm going to be looking at for the next couple of well, however long, hour, 2 hours, whatever. Um, anyway, I uh, wanted to talk about. Well, first off, sorry, a little bit disconnected. First off, I'd like to know who's with me, who's tuning in, where are you from? As always, let me know. Um, and bear with me today because of the whole headache thing. Actually, it's time for me to take a couple more pills here just for that, and I'll be all right. I just again pretty severe. It's one of the worst ones on record for this year for sure. And because I have to be on the live stream, it's especially interesting. Okay, now that you've seen me drink water twice, I don't even like you guys to see that once. All right. So today is Boxing Day, right? And I don't know if you folks know this or not, but Boxing Day actually doesn't come from. There's a lot of misconceptions about it. They think a lot of people think Boxing Day comes from the sport of boxing, or when uh, boxing is turning returning everything back to the store because that's usually what people do on Boxing Day. That's kind of what it's evolved into. Um, but it actually got its start a long time ago, and it was based off of when rich people used to uh, give up the boxes. Uh, well, excuse me, the gifts they would like re-gift in a way uh, to the poor, right? And so redistribution of and charity, if you think of it. So um, a lot of it, and for better or worse, I'm just saying this is kind of where the name came from, the nickname came from. I believe I did a quick research on it here just to confirm when it started, but Boxing Day, at least from what I can see, got its name when Queen Victoria was on the throne in the 1800s. Okay, so that was quite some time ago. But the idea is, um, and it says here that the name comes from a time, so this is exact quotes from the BBC. I think they would know if anybody. The name comes from a time when the rich used to box up gifts to give to the poor. Servants would also go home on Boxing Day to give Christmas boxes to their family. So, um, cool. Okay. So here's my point. We spend we spend all this time jamming hard on our business, building things up, getting ourselves straight. And I've always talked to you. I've talked to you several times now, at least throughout this month, about having that higher purpose, having that bigger than life, larger than life purpose to drive you. Um, and now it's time to start looking at who are those in need, right? Even if you're still in need, it's time to at least start thinking about those who are in need. And I'll give you a perfect example of how this kind of played out at least once that I know of, and it's played out many other times, but this one time in particular comes to mind. It's Tony Robbins around the holiday of Thanksgiving one year, and this is many years ago, I believe. He decided to feed one family. And if I'm not mistaken, the story goes the next Thanksgiving, his goal shifted to feed four families and then eight. And then at a certain point, he got to where he had a team together and they delivered Thanksgiving dinners or meals like good meals. We're talking not some kind of like little box thing. I'm talking full on Thanksgiving, full on Thanksgiving meal, um, to dozens and dozens of families. And if I'm not mistaken, last year, as the story goes, or the year before last, whenever he was telling this story, let me look that up. Tony Robbins Thanksgiving meal count 2020. Let's see how many meals they delivered this year. I think it's in the millions. One meal at a time, 1 billion meals in total. So he has a 1 billion meals challenge, feeding America. There it is. Is that it? I decided that I would personally provide 50 million meals to people in need this year. As that's the first headline that I'm reading here. Uh, what does it say here? Committed to finding a partner. Wow, every $1 you give helps secure and distribute 22 meals through their food banks. That's nice. Um, I'm not seeing any exact number. That was his goal, was 50 this year, 50 million. Um, 1 in 9 households, he says, on his website, TonyRobbins.com, says that they're still food insecure. That whole thing, right? Uh, the 1 billion meals challenge. The goal is to provide a billion meals by 2025. Sorry, I'm reading this through my screen here. I should probably share that, huh? Um, I'm just looking here. My point is, giving back is, and you notice you could say, well, yeah, that's Tony Robbins, but I mean, he tells the story, you know, right here. I mean, this is where it really started for him, right? I'll never forget what it felt like as a young boy thinking we wouldn't be able to sit down to Thanksgiving dinner. Then a stranger gave us the food we couldn't afford. And if you've ever had the kindness of strangers like that um, happen upon you, or to someone you, well, really to you, but um, if you've even seen that happen or been a part of that, there's something about that that changes you forever, even in the smallest of ways, usually in the largest. But um, I mean, this guy started with let me feed one family and do, in other words, do what I can do. Now I'm not saying, Thanksgiving's come and gone, folks. So I'm not saying go feed somebody today, right? But today is Boxing Day, and let's all remember what that actually is about. It's not about boxing your shit up and returning it back to the store or Amazon pickups or whatever. And it's certainly not about the sport of boxing. And it's certainly not about what am I going to do with all these boxes that are left over. It actually has a very real meaning of charity. And I'm not saying that we all have to take up a charity or anything like that. I'm saying find something larger than life. And for Tony, you might argue that this is Tony Robbins' challenge. Uh, Tony's taken on many challenges in his life, not just this one. Okay, and again, this one started not as a side project really, but as like a what can I do this year? And then he made it happen, and then it grew to be so damn big that now they're talking. The goal is by 2025 a billion meals, and if I'm not mistaken, um, they've served millions and millions of meals. There's no doubt. I'm pretty sure they do millions a year in meals for Thanksgiving, and it's nothing short of phenomenal, even at that rate. But the fact that it's continuing to grow, there's no plateau there. There's no shortage of growth there. It's pretty awesome, I think. But anyway, that's just me, kind of where I come out on it. The whole point is we just had another holiday, right? We just had Christmas where we all get together with our families and everything. And I want you to think about the folks that didn't have that, right? The people that maybe not only didn't know where their next meal was coming from, but they were cold as hell last night. That cold front that moved in on me totally messed up my sinuses, and I think I got problems, right? I've got a horrible headache. I can barely think straight. Um, but here I am, right, doing something for a purpose larger than myself, right? I want you to focus on what that could be for you today and shift your focus to that. Today and tomorrow, folks, anyway, is prep for next week. That last few day push, 3 day, 3.5 day, whatever push between Monday afternoon on prospecting all the way up till Thursday afternoon, right? New Year's Eve. So I want you to take at least a couple hours today. And for those of you who it's already like way into the night on Boxing Day, um, I don't want you to skip it. I just want you to make tomorrow during your daytime, because it'll be Sunday for you at that point, your Boxing Day this year. And then I want you to put it on the books for next year. I want you to really plan for next year what you're going to do for Boxing Day, because it should, or maybe even Thanksgiving. I mean, if you want to shift that over to Thanksgiving, or do both, shit, man, do both. My point is, those things will definitely drive you, because you can actually track and measure the progress and go, well, this year for Boxing Day, all I could do was this, but next year the goal is to do this, right? And if I do more than that, great, but this is the goal. If I do less than that, well, I got some work to do, but make it a goal that, and I say a goal, make it make it a mile marker that you can hit, right? And then you're going to find people along the way that help you. That's exactly what Tony said, something along those lines of people started volunteering. All of a sudden he had a thing, and he's like, well, shit, we should do something with this, like much bigger than what we're currently doing. Um, because he was hit with the same facts that we've all been hit with about food insecurity and all that, just here in the U.S. And I'm not saying that you should only take up a cause in your nation, or something like that. I'm saying take up a cause, and it can be your own, right? You can completely make your own. In fact, I encourage you to do that as opposed to taking up someone else's cause. That way, the money's being spent well and being spent right. Because there are so many different causes where the money is not spent very well at all. Um, and so the best thing we can do with our time and our money, notice I said time and money, is to spend it how we'd like to spend it, and not just give it to somebody else and make it their responsibility, and pay our way out of the guilt. That's not the best way to do things. Okay, it's a way to do things, but it's not the best way by any means. So anyway, um, that's what Boxing Day is all about, at least to me. A lot of people look at it again completely different. Hopefully, if you did look at it that way or didn't even understand its significance, maybe now you do, or maybe this is a good reminder for those of you who remembered learning it but don't remember ever. It's funny how, man, we celebrate the hell out of Christmas, and then um, the very next day, which is designed for um, not just charity, but the idea of a lot of things around charity are designed for that next day, hardly ever gets talked about anymore. Um, and the 25th is December 25th was chosen as the day to celebrate Jesus's birth, right? So for those of you in the Christian faith, that's supposed to be, I mean, we're supposed to be charitable, right? If you're in the Christian faith, that's the whole thing, right? Um, and I say we, I mean, if you're Christian. And yet the next day is not really, I mean, I've never in my life, never being around a lot of Christian people, not judging, I'm just saying, never in my life have I ever, in the faith, been around people who utilized Boxing Day in the way I just described to you, right? And Tony's not using it in Boxing Day necessarily, but he's using that format, that concept of choosing a day, picking something he can do something about, and expanding, starting with what he can do today, and then he expands on that year after year after year. So I want you to do the same thing. Again, no judgments on religion. I'm just happen to say, like, there's a lot of people that call themselves Christian that, I mean, they don't even know what the hell Boxing Day is. And I feel like it's just maybe a lack of knowledge or a lack of education about those kinds of things. Again, that's why I'm teaching you guys that not about the Christian faith more than I am about what Boxing Day is and that we actually have that and what the hell it means and what you can do with it. Okay. It's an opportunity for us to change the world. And that's not for those of you who think that's too lofty for you or not for you, I don't know if you're in the right. I don't know if you're on the right career path to be an entrepreneur because almost every entrepreneur I've ever met, uh, conversely to every Christian I've ever met, has the spirit of giving back and helping people to some degree. Some more than others, some significantly more than others. I'm a significantly more than other in that category. I don't expect you to be the same. I expect you to have things that drive you and motivate you to make the world a better place because God knows we need that. Everybody needs that. And who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? It's up to us. It's up to the people that believe that it can be done. And I believe it can be done. And I know there's a lot of you listening to this right now, even in the future on a recording, that are going to hear this and go, "Damn, I need to do something." And it's no longer a can I do something, should I do something? It's I need to do something. Let me get off my ass and go do something. And that's and the business model that we have, by the way, to come full circle, enables us to do a lot of that and at least get started with that and expand and grow into something that will always fund something like that. So um, please, please observe Boxing Day. I guess is my request. It'll serve you very well, and it'll also serve your fellow man well, no matter what you believe, um, no matter what you think, no matter who's going to do it, who you. Sorry, I have to expand this out so I can see the comments. Can be done, and I believe it. So anyway, it's so funny hearing me say I believe it. I do. I really do. And I believe I look dorky as hell in these glasses, but I got to do what I got to do, or it is what it is, right? Anyway, Boxing Day, guys and gals. Let me come back up here to the comments. I'm going to grab the link. Not to make this short or anything. I don't feel that was short. It was 20 minutes, but there's only so many times I could say Boxing Day and then say what it means and what we can do about it. For those that didn't know, obviously, now you do. As G.I. Joe would say, knowing is half the battle. The other half, obviously, implied there, we got to go do something about it. Okay. And yeah, yeah. If you look at it, not that I'm counting this, but if you look at what I did this year, which is the daily live streams every day this month, I told you guys before that's not something I've ever done, ever. Even in some of the training programs, I like to space things out a bit so that gives you time to learn and then implement throughout your week in case your week was busy. But I felt like because December is December, and knowing what we all know about it, I'd be kind of crazy not to at least give this a shot and try it. And so I did something that um, never done before. I've never done before, and not only had I never done it before, nobody else in this industry has ever done something like this either. And I look at that, and again, it's not a bragging point more than it is a how do I give back more than I ever have before? How do I top myself this year? And that's usually the questions, or some of the questions I start with whenever I put together an offer for you guys, or I put together something for free for you guys, or put on an event. Those are the things that I always ask myself. How do I make this better than it was already? And what else can I add to it? And I usually ask that question many times before I'm done with the final result, which is how I end up with what I end up with. Um, but I want you to be in that same kind of habit, right? On for things like Boxing Day, right? Again, no matter your faith or anything. Someone says I remind them about a bit of the legendary Texan comic Bill Hicks in your glasses. Oh, Bill Hicks. Isn't that singer slash comedian guy? No, no, no. I'm thinking of the My Girl Bill song. Hold on. Who the hell is Bill Hicks? Let me check that out. I don't know if that's a compliment yet or a kidding. I look like Bill Hicks. All right, let's see here. William Melvin Hicks, American stand-up comedian, social critic, satirist, musician. His material encompassing wide range social issues. Valdosta, how about that? Oh, damn, he's dead. That sucks. Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah, I guess if I went to Little Rock, I'd probably be dead as well. I'm kidding. He lived a fairly short life. Damn, he died in his 30s. I hope I don't remind you of that guy. Um, with the glasses, though, I get what you're saying. I've seen a couple images. Makes sense. Anyway, back to the comments. Bill Hicks was really cool. Okay, I take your word for it. I appreciate it. I was just joking about the compliment thing. I've been called worse. I've been called much worse. Um, some of you have seen that recently. Adrian says, "Who's ready for a boxing match on Boxing Day? I got my boxing gloves on. Hope you feel well soon, William. I hope so too. That way I can read straight and think straight." Um, Muhammad says, "Hey, William, Muhammad here. Nice glasses. Yes, thank you. They're blue blockers, so they're a little bit tinted. If you can't tell, they help kind of block out all the extreme light." Um, let's see. Tim is on. Steve Taylor is on this morning. Missed you yesterday, Steve. Rob, hello, William. Lots of homeless people in New York City. I don't know the specifics yet, but it's a long-term goal of mine to do something to help the homeless. Good. That is that's a huge thing. I can tell you right now, it's not just about any one thing when it comes to helping the homeless. It's going to be a multi-tiered project. It's going to be things like uh, yes, food security, yes, shelter, but also the next steps after you take care of those things for them and get them back on their feet. And by back on their feet, I mean things like some of them have lost their ID or need to get a new one because it's expired, and IDs can help them get benefits and things like that. Some of them can't get the ID because they don't have their birth certificate, right? I've run into some of these issues before, and there's things that you need to help them get while at the same time finding them some kind of temporary work to help them. And if they can't physically do a lot, maybe that's why they're in the shape that they're in. Maybe apply for Social Security, right? Disability, if they qualify for that. If they don't, then find them some work that's going to be doable for them that doesn't require them to do a lot of heavy labor, right? Um, Teach them skills and skill sets. So maybe things that they had forgotten or things that they didn't don't currently know for acquiring a new job. Um, Educate basic education skills, getting a GED. There's a lot of things that go into not rehabilitation because that makes it sound like they need rehab, but the improvement of someone's life from homeless status to a contributing member of society. And by contributing, I mean put them in a position to where they can start to give back, right? That's a long road for any one person that's in that state. And so there's a lot of cost that's involved with that. I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm just saying that so that you know that what you're asking for is a tall order, 100%. And that's good. That's a good thing. So I recognize that. I see you. I recognize what you're saying, and I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Now, protect that. Keep that to yourself because everybody else is gonna, yeah, you to death, right? Or say you're full of shit and all that. So protect that flame, right? If it's near and dear to your heart, protect that flame and use it as a fire, right? Um, what are you reading for routine is a classic Bill Hicks bit. Great place to start nowadays. It would be Doug Stanhope, I guess, who carries that mantle. Now, a serious question. What's achievable Monday through Thursday this week in terms of clients, et cetera, from a zero client start with everything else in place and ready to go? 10 to 15 clients, 10 to 15. And if you think I'm crazy, well, as a one-man band, 10 to 15 clients over a 3-day period. You could probably do more than that, but I'd say that's a good, you know, for every like a good mile marker for everybody to try and hit. At least do 2 or 3 client day, 3 days this week to get to 9 or 10 clients. Because if you did three, then obviously that'd be nine. So yeah, 10 to 15 is pretty comfortable. You got Monday afternoon all the way to Thursday afternoon, and that's 3 solid days of calling. Where if you did 4 hours each day, it's actually 4 days of 4 hours, which is 16 hours, client an hour, 15 clients, really 16. But if it's an hour and a half a client, 10 clients, right? I'm just saying, there's no reason why 10 to 15 clients should not be on your mind, no matter who you are, if everything else is in place and ready to go. Okay. Adrian says, yes, definitely this year. I gave more gifts this year than last year. I plan on building the business to a level where in the future I can give back in a bigger way. Good, good. Um, it helps. Specificity helps. Numbers and everything, not to me, but to yourself, right? Just making sure that you know that. Um, like I said, Tony started with one family, said, let me do four next year, before next year even came around, right? And then just started growing it that way. So, same plan. Use numbers, use specificity, and it'll help you grow even faster, Adrian. 100%. Um, Mohammed says, wow, thanks for sharing that deeply inspirational story, Tony Robbins. I've read a few of his books some time ago, and I don't quite recall this amazing feat of his, powerful stuff. I mean, it was almost, he almost mentions it like it was a side project. I mean, he may have even said something along those lines. It went, at least when it started. He just wanted to do what he could do with whatever he had that year, uh, just to do something good. And it turned into, this monster, if you will, but it was a good monster. And that's, yeah, it is inspiring, 100%. And the way he tells it, you could probably find it on YouTube, him talking about how that got started. But I remember listening to that and thinking, man, what a hell of a story, and how that started, considering everything else he's done, right? And that really gets you to thinking, like, what we can do is virtually limitless, right? It really is. I heard someone wise once mention that we ought to make our dreams so large that they scare the living daylights out of us. Great advice for sure. No, I agree, 100%. If it's not scaring the shit out of you, it's not big enough. By the standards of me telling you to find something larger than life, yeah, if it doesn't scare you even slightly, it's not big enough. You're on the right track. It's just not big enough, right? 100%. Quessy says, I believe in giving back and helping improve lives. Good. I believe that too. I think the biggest thing, though, right? There's beliefs of what we believe, right? And then there's what we do about the beliefs. 100%. So I'm not going to correct you or anything. I just want to make sure to point out, believing that is good. Believing in giving back and improving of lives all around the world is a very good thing, at least in my opinion. And that is an opinion. Um, I don't think many people would disagree with that, no matter what your faith is or what you think about me. I'm sure you would agree with me on that, uh, or most people would agree with me on that. However, it is mostly about what we do about that belief. Is that belief strong enough, in other words, to drive us to do XYZ number or X number of families this year as opposed to last year? Does that make sense? We got to get specific. And the reason why we got to get specific is because when we do, shit gets done about it. Shit gets done about it. And that's really interesting when you think about it. But anyway, just had to throw that out there just so that we're all clear on what we're talking about. We're not just talking about what our belief systems are. We're talking about how to use those belief systems to actually govern the actions of what we're doing this year and next year, even, and the year after, and so on. Um, it was also, John says, the day the wealthier Victorians gave their staff their Christmas box as a thank you for their service, which then became known as Boxing Day. Very good. Steve says we need to take action helping others less fortunate all year long. And I agree with that. I agree with that. But you start with what you can, right? And again, I highly encourage you. You know what? I will find that. I got to go find the Tony thing now, because I mean, he made it very clear. He's like, listen, I wasn't like a rich man back when I started this. Um, I started with what I could handle, which was one family that year, that first year, and then moved to four families and so on. So, Tony Robbins, what was the name of the food? Not food bank. What was it called? Oh, Feeding America, right? Feeding America. Let's see what we got here. I'm not sure which one is the story. Crap, I'll have to go find it later and get back to you guys on it, but I've got it pulled up on YouTube. I want to find that for you because again, it really explains. Um, he did what he could do for that period of time, right? And ultimately, it turned into something big and powerful enough to have its own vision, right? And he has many things that he works on year round. But this is one of those things where on Thanksgiving, on Boxing Day, we can start to create and develop those habits that also in turn create these visions that have minds of their own and attract volunteers and all that, and resources and other charity, um, to accomplish its own goals. Like if we get to the point where we're doing that, not just on those couple of days, you're right. What happens is you're able to build much stronger visions throughout the rest of the year. Absolutely. And if you notice, or if you'll remember back, when I told you I have a vision, it's very, very large. It's very strong. And I gave you hints as to the fact that it was multi-pronged and that there are many different um, many different avenues that I have to achieve, right? Um, and it's not about any one thing or any one special day, and it is designed to be year round, 100%. So I'm not against you on that. I'm in agreement with you. Um, but we've got to start somewhere, and you can only start where you can start. But the idea is to use the belief systems to start today, right? At least with the first day. So, okay. Nobody in the Zoom room. I did post the link in, didn't I? I did. I see that now. And I can pin it. I'll pin it to the top. There we go. Feel free to come in, ask questions. Of course, I forgot to mention that part again, like I always do. Or if you don't want to come in live and ask questions, you can ask in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. Quessy says, I agree with you, William, in regards to making it specific, and will draw up my plans on whatever or on what are the areas I would like to help or improve by giving back. Thanks. Good. That's what I need to see, right? That now I know that you're with us. You know what I mean? Like you're not just going to say this is what I believe and then that's it. It's this is what I believe and this is what I'm going to do about it, right? This is what my belief demands of me to do. You know? Um, yeah, yeah. It's interesting, right? How how beliefs guide us like that. You know, I have a story which I'll share after I read this question. I think it'll not inspire and motivate, but kind of reveal um, more about me that you might not know. That I think is going to help you understand where my heart really is if you didn't already know that kind of stuff. But first, I have to answer this question because this looks like a good one. Adrian's also asking, in terms of the December Dash competition, presumably there's a period of time to submit recordings and stuff for clients gained during the month after the close of the competition at 23:59 on the 31st, right? So, first thing, it's actually not 23:59. I just couldn't, it goes right down to the countdown, right? When you say Happy New Year Pacific Standard Time, or when we say that here, then the competition is over. Hell, I might even do a live stream because I don't anticipate. Actually, I don't know if I anticipate on going out or not. Dale's in town. I do want to go spend New Year's with him. I might just do a temporary live stream, doing the countdown from my phone then or something while I hang out with Dale. That's doable. But uh, when we count down to zero, so it's actually not 23:59. It still gives you a whole minute. Um, and as far as submitting the recordings and all that kind of stuff, everything needs to be done before that countdown hits zero, right? Before the countdown hits zero. So if you get clients on New Year's Eve, I would focus most of your time during the day on calls, and then in the evening time, lining up those call recordings, sending them into support. And as long as it's time date stamped before Pacific Standard Time, midnight, on the 31st, then you're golden, right? You're golden. And period of time to submit recordings and stuff for your clients gain during the month. No, it's all done before midnight. It's not going to take you. Listen, you pull 10 clients in one day. There's nothing keeping you from taking an hour on New Year's Eve and submitting those call recordings via email. Come on, man. Don't make me Joe Biden you. Come on, man. Get real, right? All before midnight on the 31st, right? If you want those points to count, all before midnight on the 31st, okay? And I also see time date stamps on pending posts. So, like if you submitted something and I wasn't able to approve it, which I've noticed here lately, approving posts via the phone in a group is sometimes it works and sometimes it's broken. Don't ask me why. Um, so there's going to be some pending posts, I would assume, that I'm not going to be able to approve, but they are time and date stamped by Facebook in the pending section. Now, when I approve them, the time date stamp resets to whenever I approve the post, if that makes sense. So some of them may say January 2nd, but I can assure you that, if I have to, I'll screenshot those so that everybody can see the time and date stamp so that they know I'm not bullshitting or showing any favoritism or anything like that. Okay. But everything needs to be done before midnight Pacific Standard Time on the 31st. Okay. Let's see. Adrian says, are you or staff catching up on email tickets sent in December? I may have a personal email ticket to send in to this next week or send this into next week. Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on that, and there's some tickets out right now that I need to be able to go answer. I'm hoping my headache clears up here in a bit. Um, I'm not feeling much better, but and I'm not using that as an excuse more than I am just saying I want to be. Some of these tickets are really important. I want to make sure they get a good response back, of course. But yeah, I'm always in there answering as much as I can when I can. Um, cool. Questions, questions. It's been a while since I've seen myself in glasses. I had PRK surgery a few years ago and haven't ever had to wear glasses since. I think these are actually helping a little bit with the head, though. Quessy says, "Hey, William," and I say, "Hey, Quessy, what's up? What's going on? How can I help?" Should do attendance while I'm waiting, and then we'll do last call on questions. Unless you guys, actually, we'll do the good to go thing here in a bit. All right, so attendance. Here's what I want you to do. Oh, what should I have you type in? Let's try. Hmm, I don't know. Why can I not decide? Could be something super simple and easy. Um, don't want you to have to share anything too personal. My thought it originally went to it was a good one, but at the same time, I'm not trying to make people share their vision like that. Um, uh, Boxing Day is awesome. I don't know. We'll just do something so super simple. Boxing Day is awesome because now everybody knows why it's awesome if they didn't before. Boxing Day is awesome for the attendance, and I'm looking for a few people here. I'm looking for Scott Moody, Tim Blank, John Smith, Mohammed Zakir Hussein, Adrian Bryan, Garrett Ahmad, and Robert Kornack. Those are the people I'm looking for. All right, I see Adrian. There he is. I see Scott Moody. Got you, sir. Robert Kornack. Got you. I said your name right too this time. You should be proud of me. I have a horrible headache and I got your name right. I can't believe it. I got you, Mohammed Zakir Hussein. I have you, Garrett Aman. I have you marked present. John Smith. I have you marked present. And Tim Blank. Gotcha. All right. So everybody's that's on that list is present. Very good. Very bueno. Which is not the accurate usage of that word. I know. I do that on purpose. Um, it's muy bueno. So everybody's marked on the attendance. Great. Good news. And Questy's asking, what's the best way to personalize emails? And I'm not sure what you mean other than placeholders, depending on what you're using to email out, you can use what they call placeholders to replace the name in brackets with the actual name of the recipient or the recipient's name. Those are good ways to personalize the emails. Another way I like to personalize emails is actually not super personalized, but definitely different and stands out, is add in call recordings that have been edited of consumers calling clients, or if I ran a campaign to a client, some of those call recordings and edit them out so that the best calls and call recordings are on that email when you send it out as an attachment. So adding those call recordings as an attachment that people can listen to real time, man, those things sell for you, right? Um, Plus, it stands out. It's unique. A lot of people don't send attachments, right? Unless there's something worth sending. And it's not exactly a personalization that calls them out, uh, but in fact, it's in point of fact, it kind of is because there's not many emails they get from services or people selling stuff that calls them out for their vertical, let alone calls them out for their vertical that they're in or the industry that they're in, and uh, says something along the lines of, "I've got calls like this. They need to go somewhere right now. Do you need more business?" As opposed to, "We can help you get more business, but we offer no proof of that initially in our initial conversation or whatever." Um, that's not very personal, right? Versus sending call recordings, it's very intimate. Even if it's not them on the call recording, it definitely speaks to them, if that makes sense. So I don't know exactly what you mean about personalization, other than what I just mentioned. You know, the placeholders that can be changed out or exchanged, um, like name and company and all that kind of stuff, or the call recordings as an example. But that should give you an idea. Oh, here we go. If I have about 500 emails in via Yam, how can I personalize each email? What should I put in emails to make it personal to each prospect? I wouldn't worry about that as much as what I just said, right? Call recordings are going to go a hell of a long way. Uh, Replacing the name if you have it, and if you don't worry about it, right? I think you're overthinking that too much. Robert says Rob is fine too. Quick question: how many points are needed to beat the U.S. based agency leader? Well, it's 1,000 point minimum. So right now, for best new performance, if that's what you're talking about, which is the U.S. based agency, right? To get that the founders pack and all that. It's 1,000 point minimum. Right now, there's at least two people in the running. At least two. I'm not sure about if the third one's US based or not, but there's at least two in the running, but they're not at 1,000 points yet. Either one of them yet. Um, and then you've got what I told you. It's going to be a crazy week because, like I told you, 10 to 15 clients is not only doable. It's kind of like not the minimums, but it'd be like an average set of these 3 or 4 days, right? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Um, so you should get after it. But 1,000 point minimum would be, I mean, if you had call recordings for each and you took in a $300 deposit and you posted all the results in Facebook, then that's 100 points each client, roughly. 10 clients, 1,000 point minimum. So call it 10 plus to be safe, but the revenue collected has to be 300 or more. If it's 200, you're going to have less points than 1,000. So you're gonna have to work at it. You might need 12 clients based on what your deposit is set at, right? Something to think about. Good question too. I like where your head's at. Uh, William, could you remind us? Muhammad's asking, William, could you remind us what a flyant is? Thanks. A flyant is a fake client. Fake client. So you run a campaign to a client, a fake client, because they don't know that they're getting the calls from you because you're not giving them any kind of a call whisper. At the same time, you're enabling the call recording so you can edit those out, use those as the kinds of call quality that you can drive for recordings for your website, your agency website, for sales, also for those emails that I just mentioned, right? Helps very much so in your sales conversions, as well as identifying that you can drive qualified phone calls to a business owner in that industry, right, or in that vertical. A lot of people start with Afliance because they've never run a call only campaign or a call ads campaign. Um, and even if they have run one, maybe they haven't run it successfully, so they want to test out in this industry, make sure or vertical that they can drive the phone calls to that uh, for that service or product or services or products in that industry or vertical for those business owners before they go and try to close those clients, right? Adrian says, could you hold on just a second? Adrian says, could you, in summary, go over some important things which need to go in joint venture agreements? You mentioned having previous experience in business partnerships without you sharing anything confidential. What are some things to look for and include? Uh, what are some things to look for and include? Thanks. What kind of joint venture? Every one of them is different, man. Um, it's a bit vague. I can give you some basics, but I mean, anybody could give you that. Um, Here, okay, let's back up. If you can get a little bit more specific with me on what kind of a joint venture you're wanting to go after, um, or already have but need agreements in place to govern it, right? That's possible as well. I'd be able to give you a much more specific answer on what would be advised, right? On what would be advised there, but I can't help you without any kind of specific information. Here we go. Joint venture for the pay per call business. Okay. So when you say joint venture, uh, my mind goes to third party, not a partnership. Like there's a partnership, like you can be partners with somebody in the pay per call space, right? As an agency, you can have an agency partner, would be a good label for that, or a joint venture, which would be for a third party, another company. All right, company to company, right? So when you say joint venture, are you talking about company to company, third party, or in that kind of a partnership? Or are you talking about you and someone else run an agency together as a partnership? Because those are two totally different things. One is actually a joint venture, and the other one could be considered a joint venture, but is actually by definition a partnership more than a joint venture. Even though, again, joint venture could mean the same thing in the joint venture space. For people that do joint ventures, they'd almost be offended by that. Not that I am, I'm just saying they make their living off of those two companies and bringing them together, product and service, that kind of thing, right? And that's considered a joint venture more than a partnership would be considered that, even though technically a partnership would be considered that. Uh, Robert says, "Hey William, I think I found the Tony Robbins video you were looking for. For some reason, it's unlisted. I will definitely give this a look and see if that's the one. I don't want to play it right now because if I do, then I might get a copyright listing on the live stream." Adrian says, "Okay, yes, partnership with someone else in the pay-per-call space." Okay, so what do you need? Let me go back and read this question again because you asked me in summary some important things which you need to which need which need to go in to a partnership agreement. You mentioned having previous experience in business partnerships. Without you sharing anything confidential, what are some things to look for and include? Okay. Well, first off, it can be in writing all you want, uh, but it's only as good as the other person's word as well and your word um, at the end of the day. That doesn't mean that it's not enforceable, right? The reason people shy away from having things in writing is because it is enforceable or can be enforced depending on the jurisdiction it's written in. So, depending on where your other partner is located, Adrian, you're going to want to decide what jurisdiction governs the agreement. And it's going to have to make sense based on your actual location. Um, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to do your homework on that for who has the more favorable laws for both parties involved, right? And that's going to take a little bit of time, unfortunately. And again, because every jurisdiction is different, I know you're currently in Jamaica. I don't know much about Jamaican law when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I also don't know where your partner's at. So again, um, there's going to be some specifics you're going to have to look into for where deciding what jurisdiction governs the agreement, right, and the enforcement of the agreement. In other words, if things break down and go to shit, does it go to arbitration? If so, where does who hears the case? Does it go to a court? If so, who hears the case in what state, what county? If it's here in the U.S., for example, um, who's responsible for legal fees if somebody wins or loses? Right? There's a whole slew of agreement points in a partnership like that. First buyout rights, um, first option, in other words, to buy out. So like, let's say you and your partner build up a huge business and he wants to be bought out. He has to offer you 90 days or something. It's a good window usually to come up with the money to buy him out first before he can just openly sell it, right? And you can even govern the terms as to who he's able to sell to, um, so that your life is not hell, right? And the business doesn't get tanked by him just bringing in a new partner like that, or letting somebody else take over as partner because you didn't pick that person, he did, right? But if the terms help govern that pretty strictly, then you don't have to worry about that as much. And again, you get first rights to a business that you worked your ass off to, and that's something that can be enforced in court. Injunctions, depending on the jurisdictions, of course, again, that govern the document and the partnership itself. It also helps to, if you have a partnership with somebody, to incorporate with that person in that same jurisdiction, or at least within the same country as that, as the governing um, body that's going to be enforcing your document, right? Enforcing your agreement. Uh, this all makes me sound like a lawyer, and I am not, by the way. So I would highly advise that you consult with one. Would not be a bad idea. Services like Rocket Lawyer allow you to consult with them on things like this, but I would highly suggest before you reach out to one of their consultants, one of their actual lawyers that you can do a consult with, I would highly recommend you do your own homework as much as possible before you go and speak to them, because then you're going to be speaking to them on a much more educated basis, and that's going to help you move further along in the process with that consult with them. They do have free ones, but I also believe they do have paid ones as well, or people that will take on your case. And in this case, it wouldn't be a case; it would be more of the agreement. They would take on the writing of the agreement or the fine tuning of the agreement, because Rocket Lawyer does have a lot of things built into partnership agreements that cover these very topics. Um, some other things you want to look at adding and making sure that are in there are information um, about each party in the partnership. Most people just include a name, and it's, the more information you have tied to that document, the better. If you have it signed and countersigned and notarized, for here in the States anyway, um, everywhere else would be something like a form of an apostille, for example, which is a little bit bulky and gaudy, but it gets the job done. It's as legal as it gets in the jurisdictions that use apostilles. They tend to cost a little bit more than notaries do. To have something notarized is usually very cheap or free if you have the right bank. But that's here in the States. Notaries work here in the States, whereas um, foreign countries, apostilles, those are, like I said, it makes paper like impossible to fold. So there's those things to look for. Um, yes, I've had agreements apostilled. For those that are wondering, I'm not an international law expert. I've just been around enough, I guess, maybe to have come across that. Um, and again, at the end of the day, you don't want to have to go to court. You don't want to have your partnership or your agreement enforced. But if you're going to have a partnership, you need to at least insure it. It's an insurance policy for both of you, um, to avoid any kind of temptation of fucking the other one over. In my experience, that's happened a few times. Um, it also encourages growth and not prohibits it. Right? There's so much to a good agreement, and you definitely want some multiple eyes on it, not just a lawyer's eyes, but also objective friends that can look at it and say, well, you're not in favor on this outcome here. Are you okay with that? And you're in favor on this one. Is he okay with that, or is she okay with that? Right, your partner. So there's a lot of things that go into a good agreement, and at the end of the day, uh, you want something that is used as good insurance, yes, but at the end of the day, you also want to make sure that the partner that you're working with is seriously somebody that you can work with through good times and bad, right? Good times and bad, and is able to trust you to do what your expertise is, right? It's another good one. Um, that's not really something you can necessarily put in the agreement. You can put responsibilities in there, but those responsibilities shift from time to time. It's always good to do reviews of the agreement and do addendums to make modifications like that, and have those signed and countersigned and notarized again if it's that if your jurisdiction applies notaries and all that kind of stuff. But basically, confirmation of the addendums so that they're recognized as part of the actual original agreement on things that have changed responsibility wise and all that. That helps 100% because it keeps everybody on point. They can't say, well, that's not what I do. It says right here. Why would you commit to that then in writing? Do we need to go and change this? I don't mind, but we need to get this. I don't want to hear that ever again. In other words, from a partnership ever. Like nobody's going to sign something and with me and then say, well, I don't agree to that. Really? Because you did right here. So explain to me why that's the case, or let's go change it right now and I'll find a way to do it or find someone to do it for us. But what's not going to happen is you tell me that it's not going to get done because it's something we need. Um, and of course, that's not always going to sit well with the other partner because it makes them feel lazy and or incompetent in a lot of cases. And I'll tell you right now, in a partnership, there's no room for those kind of feelings threatened by intelligence. That's not smart. Um, that's dumber than dumb, if anything. And that's the biggest thing I find challenge wise with partnerships is that usually one of the two ends up feeling threatened by the other one's success, and even in certain areas that make no sense. And like for example, if you and a partner in the pay per call space, right? One of you is in charge of sales and onboarding clients. Let's say the other one's in charge of delivery for the clients and support of the clients, which onboarding and support are actually two different things, right? And then maybe scaling into the verticals the new verticals and growing the business is something you both meet on in the middle on responsibility wise. Well, let's say that's how the agreement starts out, but then a year later, as it turns out, you tend to be the one that's got a really good eye and a good knack for, because you're in sales, on knowing which way the company should probably grow into the next vertical, like where you should grow to next, right? Um, and that threatens for some reason the other partner because they can't come up with that because they don't have their fingers on the pulse like you do, um, or the same vision that you do. And instead of talking that out or having that conversation, they just sit back and at first it's admiration, and then it becomes threatening to them very, very quickly. It turns sour very, very quickly, and you won't even, maybe not even realize that it's happening, that it's going on. But whenever a partner tends to go quiet, that's when something's working in the background. I promise you. I guarantee it. Um, the good news is you can have staff in place, and your staff can warn you ahead of time. I've had that happen. Was grateful for that because it gave me time to, well, I was already preparing from day one, but it gave me time to really make sure everything was in order, um, ready to go in case, which is sad to say, but at the same time, um, when that day came, I was glad I had done it, right? Obviously, made sense. And you don't ever want to be caught with your pants down like that, because even if you're caught without your pants down, in other words, you're not caught off guard, it's still going to hurt. Let me tell you, still going to sting. There's still going to be some serious separation anxiety and problems that you're going to go through, no matter how small a staff, how big a staff, no matter how big the business or how small the business, no matter how much time you've put into it, no matter if you've done most of the work or not, it doesn't matter. You're going to have some separation issues for sure, 100%, and you're going to have to start over from scratch in a lot of cases. The good news is you'll know how to build back up very quickly, and most likely you won't even need a partnership, or realize that you don't need a partner at that point to do what you need to do. It may take you a little bit longer, but you'll build back uh, bigger and better and stronger and faster than the first time around, and you won't have to worry about a partner fucking with you, right? Um, so that's my take on partnerships. Some of the things you should look for in an agreement, and then why at the end of the day it's all about people keeping their word anyway. Um, the agreements can be enforced, but again, there's going to be some serious problems between the time something happens and it being enforced, and it usually doesn't happen overnight. It usually draws itself out, and it's usually because of reasons like I mentioned. For example, someone being threatened by intelligence instead of embracing it and running with it. I mean, um, Henry Ford is a perfect example of what I talk about. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do well in this business. You just need to be Henry Ford. Hire the smart people to have around you. So shit, man, if your partner is better than you at this, you, you're doing all right. You should be finding ways to support the partner in that capacity, because that's going to grow the business. And ultimately you do share the business with the partner. Why would you not think in those terms, right? As opposed to feeling threatened and then start cutting them off from things left and right. Like, the last thing you want to do is take your sales guy and that's doing well and start cutting him from the sales process, and then start cutting him from this and start cutting him from that. I've had that kind of stuff happen as well in several places, not just with one partnership, but several partnerships. And it's no fun because it's like trying to work with one hand tied behind your back, you know. Um, and then ultimately you end up with both hands tied behind your back, and then you drown. Then you drown because the tides came in and you had your hands behind your back and you could only tread water for so long, right? That's basically what happens, and it sucks. But not if you're prepared, right? I definitely say prepare from day one, as if it's going to happen. You just don't know when, and you don't have to be super paranoid about it or anything, but preparation like that helps you sleep for sure. And if your partner knows that you're doing that, it's actually better, because then it's kind of another insurance policy, if you will. Like, hey, he said he's packing everything up, or he's doing this, or he's doing that. You know, so and have that conversation about being threatened and what to actually do about it and what to not do about it, and give them some examples of where that stuff's happened. Um, should make a lot of sense, I think, to the right partner. And there are some good partners to have out there. They're just few and far between, right? And most everything out there you can get done by yourself and hire people instead of taking on partners. So um, I know I gave you some pointers on the agreement and everything, but at the same time, still don't recommend partnerships. Please take that to heart. uh, Quessy's asking, hey, William, in ClickFunnels, I have two-tier pricing at the checkout where clients can either pick the first or second tier, but I can't seem to find a workaround on how they can select both tiers and pay for the two services if they decide to go for both. Make a third product and include both. Title it for both and price it for both combined, if that makes sense. So just make a third product in that, uh, and for the initial deposit. So if you have two tiers and one deposit is $200 and one deposit is $400, then make a third product that's 200 and 400, which is 600, and title it tier one, tier two, whatever those are, uh, initial deposit together, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you. An apostille, not apple steel. An apostille is, I know my accent gets in the way. Hold on. It almost looks like apostille, but the way it's written. Uh, see if I can find you a good example of it. All right, so an apostille would look like this, and some of them get like really crazy. Like this would be one kind of like what you'd find in the U.S. Something like this, right? It's like this gold leaf and it's imprinted. I mean, kind of like a notary, but not a notary. Like a notary is usually like a small little black box and it's stamped, and it's done by someone who is has been trained to be a notary, specific to do that job in most cases. But this right here is an apostille, and it's mostly for legal documents. But this is more common. Like you find this one where it's this huge red like wax deal where they do a stamp on the wax, almost like an old school. And by old school, I mean like medieval kind of shit. Like the kings used to use their rings to seal documents and messages, right? And or their the seal, um, for documents, right? And if you look at, again, here, you'll see some examples. So there's like something like a notary would be more like a stamp. Some of the apostilles are a little bit more modern, but seeing if I can try and find you one. There's a funny example of what I was just talking about with the messages and everything. Um, I wonder if the Panamanian apostille is usually like fucking ridiculous. If I can find an image of it, like ridiculous but cool to look at. See if I can find one. Hmm. No. Oh shit. Maybe Seychelles. I don't know. Like if you look at some of the jurisdictions, Seychelles. Let's see. There you go. So you get like this crazy. It's got this. Look at this. Now it's kind of hard to see that, but it's got a ribbon that's also attaching the documents, and it's sealed with the red wax. So it's like when I say impossible to fold, this is what I'm talking about. This kind of shit. Here's another good one. It's like holy shit, they bound it with the ribbon and apostilled it and then stamped it on top of that. Like that's that's what I'm talking about when I say apostille. And this is how you spell it: Apostille. And the Seychelles is a favorable banking jurisdiction for a lot of different citizens of the world. One of many, but okay, there we go. So hopefully that explains what an apostille is. Uh, um, David's here from Houston. Good to see you, buddy. Art says, "Sorry, I'm late." Don't be sorry. You're here, man. That's all that matters. If you need help, get help. If you don't, then I'm glad you're here. Always good to hear from you, Art. Uh, John Smith says, like you, I spent some time in some time in insurance, not life insurance, and got more involved in partnership breakups. Sounds like a relationship. You guys are making me sound like a relationship coach. It's funny. Um, and I would be a horrible relationship coach because I'd be like, get rid of her, get rid of her, get your freedom back. I'm kidding. Um, I probably wouldn't be that bad. The main cause of problems seemed to be the total lack of exit arrangements in the event of a breakdown in the partnership. Yeah, like I said, that's something you definitely want to have covered and very tight, like dissolution of the partnership and what that looks like. It's not bad to have that in writing. If somebody won't, let me tell you this: if you have a partner in a business that will not do something in writing with you, um, under any circumstances whatsoever, even if it was just to appease you mentally, and go in on that with you, not a good partner. Period. Not going to be not going to go well at all. Um, that was a very clear sign to me that there was a clock that was running. And I had been preparing on the last partnership I had. I had been preparing for day one from day one, backing up everything. It was all my intellectual property, all that kind of stuff, right? Um, I had full control over it. I may not own the real estate, like for example the land, but I own the house, and I made sure that fucking house had wheels on it so that I could move it if I needed to. And again, yeah, the wheels are a little bit gaudy, but again, I could move the damn house if I needed to onto my own land, and that's exactly what I did. Um, because the partner that I had at the time did not want to have anything in writing and said, "You're on your own. I hate lawyers. I don't want to deal with them. The agreement's only good as us anyway. What jurisdiction?" I said, "Well, we're both U.S. citizens. It would make sense to govern it in the U.S. I mean, you have U.S. companies. I have U.S. companies. Like, why would we not do it in the U.S.? Just because you live abroad doesn't, I mean, what if you're that worried about it, then maybe we shouldn't be in business right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's the conversation that we had in about a year in to a partnership. That's pretty disconcerting, to say the least. And there were some other red flags along the way before that even happened, but that very clearly showed me there was a clock on the wall, and to make sure that I always had everything continually backed up. So I developed systems and processes to help me automate a lot of that, so that I didn't have to be around for it or deal with it, and and it was just there, right? Which is very helpful, of course. But I don't ever want to have you go through that, because it's probably one of the most painful. I've had relationships that I where I loved someone go end better than that, and that's saying something. And I guess a lot of it comes down to I had so many people that that were counting on me and were like, "Why did you leave?" And that they didn't. They some people still to this day don't understand why I left. They think I left because I hate them or something, which is absolutely crazy, but true. That's what they think. Had somebody ask me that a few months ago on YouTube. Was like, "Man, why did you leave us?" What? Like, you didn't get my message, my 10-minute coaching call, and I reposted it and sent emails out to it. You didn't see that? Like, how did you not see that? Anyway, um, definitely exit arrangements need to be covered 100%, and they need to be very tight. So things like dissolution, so just complete breakdown, but also exit strategy for the positive, like sellouts, buyouts, first option. Um, what else? In case of death, it's another one a lot of people don't think of. Because I'll tell you right now, uh, you definitely want to have the buyout option if because you don't know that wife, right, or partner, significant other, whoever. You didn't partner up with them, right? And in the event of the death of your partner, which it sucks to have to be a little bit morbid about it, but at the same time, in the event of the death of your partner, you did not partner with their spouse. You did not make so for them to take ownership, which is their right. You should offer in the agreement first that before ownership is given, you have the right to buy out in 90 days and just pay them out, pay the family out, right? Um, or over that 90 days, discuss the transition and partnership with the new person, if or the spouse or whoever, if that's what you want to do, right? Or a dissolution. If an arrangement can't be made after 90 days and financing is not secured, dissolution of the partnership. There goes the whole business. But sometimes that's going to be better than having to deal with a spouse or a significant other. And if you have it in the agreement plain as day, and it's signed and countersigned and notarized or apostilled, then you're going to have some really solid stuff to go to court with, right? Or to any jurisdiction or any kind of arbitration with, and say, well, this is the deal we made, and I'm sorry she wants to be a partner with me, but I don't want to partner with her, at least initially, and especially not after her trying to take me to court over it. Definitely not trying to be partners with this person. Um, and in our agreement, it says very clearly, I have 90 days to secure financing and or to buy my partner's shares out at this value calculated in this way with this formula. Here's all the data required, financial data that you can look at yourself and come up to the same calculations I've come up with. And here's the check that I'm ready to hand her so that I can own this business as per the agreement that I made with my partner. For some reason, I lost it. There it is. As per the agreement that I made with the partner. Sometimes you can have it set so that it goes to, again, the buyout goes to the next of kin and all that kind of stuff. The point is having exit strategies for all contingencies, right? Those are the main ones, though. Complete breakdown of the partnership, um, buyouts, exit strategies, being bought out by a third party, um, any kind of rules for introducing a new partner. So, for example, maybe you guys get big enough, you want to hire a CEO, but you want to give them a percentage. You're going to need some kind of something in the language that stipulates what is required for that agreement or that consensus to be uh, to, to happen, right? Um, and does that person that has a smaller percentage have voting rights, right? And if so, how much does it count? And what's their buyout strategies? What's their death strategies, their exit strategies, all that kind of stuff? There's a lot to a good agreement, and there's always addendums, right? You can always do addendums. Um, but it's good to have most of it done ahead of time, for sure. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That was valuable. Uh, Quessy says it makes a lot of sense. You seem to have a solution for everything. Thanks so much. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I guess maybe the third. Yeah. You're more than welcome with the tier pricing. Yeah, I got you. I forgot that I had answered that. But yeah, happy to help. I seem to have an answer for everything. That's funny. I just been there, done that, guys, a lot. I mean, there's nothing else to really say. Um, Maybe that's why I say so much is because I've done a lot and I'm able to give you direct feedback on all those things. Um, but yeah, take that to heart. Again, not discouraging partnerships more than I am just saying if you're gonna do it, be prepared. You know, kind of like if you're gonna get married, right? I laugh. If you're gonna get married and you're entrepreneurial like I am, which most of you are, or you wouldn't be here, and you haven't gotten married yet, and you're gonna get married, you should probably have things like prenups in place. You should have some kind of whole setup in place, seriously, to protect that from anyone and everyone, including the closest to you, right? Including a fiance. Because and I tell you right now, all the honey that's been poured into your ear about I would never do that, uh, you say that's good because that's exactly what I expect, and this is my insurance policy for that. It's to make sure that you don't, right? It's to make sure that you don't. You know, crazy things happen. For example, there's a guy who way back in the 20s, I think in the 20s or maybe 1910, somewhere in there, was a steel worker who I think it was a steel worker who ended up with a 1 inch rod through his head. His name was Gage, actually. Gage, not like a gauge of wire or something, but his name was Gage. Let's see if I can find a bit of information about him. Gage, the rod through head, and it completely changed. Phineas Gage, that was his name. Railroad construction, close. I was close. His improbable survival of an accident in which a large iron rod was driven completely through his head. And large is, it doesn't even really begin to describe it. It was like, I think it was an inch diameter, an inch, like that. Bigger than a quarter, you know what I'm saying? Bigger than a quarter through the head. Like, and it went like, I think up and through or like somewhere like this. It was crazy, right? Like, how do you survive that? Like, not for a few minutes either. I'm talking like years after. Okay. Uh, the thing is, though, there were some interesting changes to his personality because if I'm not mistaken, it went through his frontal lobe, which governs a lot of things like your personality and how you treat people and things like that. And before the accident, you can look all this stuff up, but before the accident, he was always on time to work, friendly, good-hearted man, uh, always a good at chipper attitude, can do, get things done, all that kind of stuff. And then after the accident, showed up late, hated everything, practically everybody, had nothing but foul things to say to people. Personality was just completely different. Didn't trust people like he used to, that kind of thing. Um, and it was all personality shifts and changes. Now, I'm not saying that your business partner is going to have a rod go through their head and change their personality, but I've seen this happen to people who've been in car wrecks where they have frontal lobe damage to their brain. In other words, serious brain injury completely changes who they are and how they act. I've seen it happen with my own eyes, in front of my own eyes with people. Um, Sadly, and that can happen obviously in a partnership. And there's many different scenarios that and contingencies that need to be accounted for. Um, Same thing marriage wise, like what happens if your spouse gets in a wreck and that happens, right? And all of a sudden her personality changes or his personality changes, and the next thing you know, that I would never do that to you, becomes the exact thing that they're going to do to you, and you don't have everything in place for it. Well, aren't you the sucker, right? I'm just saying, all those things need to be. It's the trust but verify, right? That whole thing, very much so. Insurance policies are not. There's people that believe in insurance and understand its uses and have, in most cases, seen how it directly benefited someone they know and love and care about, or they've benefited directly from insurance, um, and understand the need for it. And I'm telling you right now, in business partnerships and marriage, there's always a need for good insurance. Anything that's valuable, significantly valuable, which if you value your marriage, you would think you'd want insurance on it in many different forms. Um, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a smart thing. And if you don't have that insurance, you can still go get some of that at least. And I would highly recommend that you do that on your partnerships, on your marriage, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Adrian says, LOL, prenups are important for millionaires and billionaires. Look what happened to Jeff Bezos. I would not want that to happen to me, especially when us business owners made a majority amount of our money before meeting our spouse. Um, prenups prenups play a role for sure. I mean, Bezos's case is a little bit different. I mean, if he'd have just kept it in his pants, maybe before or just chose to get a divorce, he would have paid, but maybe not as much, right? Um, or if he'd have just been smarter and not got caught, sad to say, but true, um, he wouldn't have the issues he had with her. I mean, she pulled so much from him. I thought she was going to pull more than that, to be honest. She settled quickly, though. I think that was the trade-off there. But she got so much, even still, she's on like she's one of the top billionaires just for having married Jeff Bezos. That was and dealing with his cheating, right? That's not nothing, okay, folks. For those of you listening, nobody's perfect either, so no judgments against Jeff there. It's not something I would do. It's not something I would recommend anybody to do. But it is part of that example there, just to be clear. Um, but that aside, if you look at making your money, having the prenup in place, if you plan on being, that's the thing. If you're entrepreneurial and you plan on being a millionaire or billionaire, um, you should probably plan from day one and have those things in place. Prenups are not prenups are pre-nuptials, okay? Meaning they have to be in place before you get married, right? And maybe that's also before you make the money. You don't have to make the money and then get married, right? Some people, in fact, a lot of people get married and then they make the money, and it's like, shit, I didn't have a prenup. Don't be that guy or gal, right? Protect your money, protect what's yours. Absolutely, you have every right to do that. But most people don't know or anticipate that they're actually going to achieve. It's kind of like, oh shit, I made it, and I didn't set up the prenup. Well, I can't go back and prenup that because it's a postnup, and those are nowhere near as strong. Okay, so yeah, take that for what it's worth. Okay, enough talking about marriage. A lot of people are gonna be like, man, he doesn't look down on cheaters. I try not to look down on anybody, to be honest. I don't appreciate that kind of activity by any means. Um, but I'm not going to just look down on somebody because they had a human moment, right? That's crazy. Um, I mean, we've all had human moments. I'm not saying we've all cheated either, but I'm saying we've all had our moments, and we're all human. So let's not judge each other. Let's help each other, right? But in that case, it is important to point that out because it does make a difference in the fact that had he done a couple other things, even with just one of those things, it wouldn't have even been an issue for him, right? Um, and he married her, I believe, long before he became who he was, like to this degree, and that means there probably wasn't a prenup because I don't know, maybe he didn't expect to make it to this point, or maybe he always expected that she would stay with him no matter what. Which again, aside from the cheating, that's a hell of a bet, man. I mean, I live in Las Vegas, and I don't think I'd make that bet. I really wouldn't. I made that bet once. That was the last time I ever made that kind of bet on marriage, and that doesn't mean I'll never marry again. It just means I probably won't. But if I do, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to make that kind of bet again. Right? I'm going to definitely have some hedges, some insurance, 100%, and it's going to be for both of us, not just for me. I'm not that big of an asshole. Um, but there will be some insurance, 100%, because that's just not fair to have something that I would consider valuable that she would consider valuable, and we share it together, and for us to not have any insurance on it. I think that's silly. Anyway, you're welcome for the jokes and advice today. You're most welcome. Um, take it for what it's worth. Hope it helps a lot. Covered a lot of stuff. It's interesting. Very short time frame, and considering my state with the headache, I think we've done pretty well. Making this scowling face like I'm angry, but I'm actually not, and I'm talking differently because I'm actually in pain. But other than that, great call. Good job. Good questions. Appreciate each and every one of you. We've taken attendance. Looks like we're all set. Uh, Tomorrow, keep. Oh, so last couple of words here. Keep working at what you're doing. Today and tomorrow is going to be perfect for prep, and also for follow up is not bad for today. So like, yes, maybe you don't want to do dialing today, but you can always do follow up calls. Absolutely, it's Boxing Day. Um, most of the business owners, especially in blue collar, most of them are either at work or at home, and the wives are out turning stuff back in because they think that's what Boxing Day is. They're getting store credit and stuff like that, or they're figuring out, sorting out what they're going to do, right? In most cases, with the gifts. So now's the perfect time, in other words, to talk to those people. And not that they're all men, but in a lot of cases, you're going to find a lot of men, especially in the home services industries. You'll find some women here and there, but mostly men on that one. So for those verticals, yeah, definitely today's a perfect follow-up day, because it's kind of like, yeah, I got nothing going on. And they say that so that they can be like, well, honey, I had to take that phone call. It's business, right? Sad but true. I tell you, don't take much of Christmas to remind people as to why we only have 1 or 2 days a year that we celebrate like that, because then they get sick of the family, and now it's time to everybody go back to what they were normally doing. This year's a little bit different because of COVID and everything. We're much happier, more grateful. There's a lot more gratitude this year, I feel, at least from my experience and what I've seen in others, even myself, for what we have and don't have, right? Gratitude for both, and what we can share with others. So I'm sure you've seen the same. And next year, who knows? It may be back to the same old, yeah, Christmas, bah humbug, right? That whole thing. Anyway, a lot of good stuff covered today. Appreciate all of you. Prep today, prep tomorrow. Do some follow-up if you can today. Tomorrow's probably not the best for follow-up. Tomorrow would definitely be a prep day to gear up for Monday afternoon. Sharpen the axe, get good on the sales script, fine-tune it. Today and tomorrow is a good day to work on systems and processes, optimizing a campaigns, setup of campaigns for clients, all those kinds of things, and start working out that stuff, because that's going to really help you come, not this week, but it will help you this week, but it'll really help you the next week and the next week after, about 2 weeks out from now. That kind of activity is definitely going to start pulling its weight very quickly to help you scale even further into January. So, all right, cool. Well, let's bounce out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 27th, right? 27th, that's right. And I'll see you then. All right, bye for now. And hope you had a Merry Christmas. Hope you have an even better Boxing Day. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, bye for now.
Cool. UFO. Back on my shit with a new advantage. I leave it up to you to settle the damage. Diamond, yeah, I know it's foreign to him. I came from the guts of rural Alabama. Steph Curry wrist, watch what they handle. Simple motives, gotta lead by example. Not too many make it out when they doubt. Never been about bailing off of my route. Rain gang, got the city HD. Hate to see my brother die every week. Numb to your vision. My life got me too fucked up. Disrespect to make a nigga go dumb. Pillow talking while you nursing that bitch and turn you to a scrub. Outlet prices from the plug. Bay Shore, Ocean View, win Adidas with the boots. Niggas out here slinging arbitrage, so the money really no excuse. Welcome to the realm.